My topic of presentation is on, I'm actually highlighting the kind of like something that is quite trendy and also a new kind of framework. Alright, it is on regional global governance and policy network. I'm looking at women's rights, and the concept that I would like to highlight is on regional and global kind of like policy network. How a regional organization, in this case I'm taking ASEAN, and also how global governance, in this case I'm taking CEDAW as a case study, how it is actually interlinked with one another for a global mission, which is actually women's rights. Yeah? Alright, so CEDAW and ASEAN, how many of you, this is first time hear this word? CEDAW, alright, okay. So this is for ladies, for us, and also of course for men too, because if ladies are happy, men will be happy too, right? So it's kind of like very direct correlation between the two. Alright, it's still, this is the abstract first, yeah? To highlight the concept, to analyze the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, implementation in ASEAN country. To what extent ASEAN regional governance policy link to governance, CEDAW governance. This is a qualitative research. I have conducted interviews, participatory observation, because I'm also involved as a civil society organization representatives. All right, in few of the workshops, ASEAN workshop, and also UN conference. And of course, I did a content analysis of 28 documents. We will see what are the documents later on. And of course, my approach is social constructivist. So it's a bit different than realist or liberalist kind of, and also of course feminism, because it's about women's rights. Yeah. So CEDAW is a women's. In other word, we call it Women's Treaty. It is adopted by United Nations and ratified by most countries, excluding United States and a few other countries, alright, including all ASEAN states. Yeah, and about ASEAN, about human rights, there are 9 treaties, alright, and all ASEAN states only ratify 2. Okay, child's right and women's right, but the rest, they are not ratifying, like racial elimination of discrimination against race and few other 7 other treaties that they are still negotiating, ratifying. And this CEDAW consists of 30 articles, specifically about each aspect of what women's right is all about and how it is actually very much related to Millennium Development Goal, Sustainable Development Goal, and all those mission, alright, global mission. Alright, so this CEDAW being introduced in 1979, and we have few already ratified as early as 1981. Malaysia, if you can see, 1995. It's a bit late, okay, to recognize women's rights in Malaysia. Brunei is the last, 2006. Yeah. So what is this this concept? This concept is actually a hybrid or a synthesis of few concepts. Number 1 is about regionalism. Number 2, global governance, and also the policy network. Okay, as I said, as I think all of us are quite familiar with governance, it's about how the process of conflicting diverse interests, formal, informal arrangement, and then we need to talk about participation, inclusiveness, and so forth. Regional governance, ASEAN is quite, you know, for us it's a bit, for ASEAN is something is new governance, alright? So it's all about supranational, regional kind of governance. And here I am looking at the empirical numerical dimensions. So that just okay. And from the social constructivist perspective, I'm looking at once state ratifies CEDAW, it turns out to be a synergy of women's rights once you ratify CEDAW. Because once you ratify CEDAW, a treaty, you need to report what you have done. If you have not done it, you will be criticized when you go for session in United Nations. For example, we have Commission on Status of Women session every year. So if Malaysia or few countries are not what we call it, implement certain articles in CEDAW, they will be asked. Alright? So because of this, we have Malaysian government, Indonesia, Cambodia, they have sent so many documents. This is the documents that I told you. I have analyzed 28 documents. We have state report. Why we call it governance? Because we also have the NGO report. So state report always the good news. The NGO report is always the bad news. Alright? So United Nations will actually analyze both sides. Alright? Both sides of news. Alright? So for this paper, I just give some similarity and some challenges. That's all. And these are the meetings of the because of this ratification, all the government from ASEAN countries need to attend sessions to actually listen and present what they have done for women in each country. Alright, of course here I read the text. They have this macam transcribe of the session. Some of the session is very fiery session. You know, when you read it, you know. And I can also trace some government lied. They say they already implement, but actually they did not implement this. But they say they already. But when they go back, then they implement. Alright? So it's kind of like interesting to read all this text, but of course it's a bit too many. Yeah? Alright, so from all the reports, 28 documents, there are similarities in terms of implementation. So these are some of 7 similarities. Number 1, all states are now working on legal provision, national policy and action plans. They actually established ministries like Women Ministry in 2001. It is one of the reasons because we ratified CEDAW, then we have the Women's Ministry. And then we have enacted a law specially to combat domestic violence and so forth. So this is after the ratification, we are actually looking at all this. Centers, shelter center, CEDAW being adapted as state constitution, task force, and also status, and also quota set up, 30%, at least 30% policies. Yeah, like Malaysia, we have 30% policies for women in the what we call it in the government sector and also corporate sector. But in Indonesia, they don't have. They only have 30% for women parliamentarian in parliament. But Malaysia, we don't have that. All right. Okay, then challenges. There are a lot of challenges. Number 1, the most repetitively mentioned is about culture, tradition, and religion. I think if I ask about Egypt, when it comes to Arab Spring, women are there, but now it's like diluted. The women representation, it seems to be like diluted and evaporate. Okay, so in these 10 countries are the same. We have problem with because of the interpretation of religion, culture is repetitively mentioned in all the reports. Yeah, percentage of women participating in leadership very low for all the country. Asian country, Asia Pacific, we only have less than 10% parliamentarian representative. So in other words, ladies, we are only 10% of population in each country. Are we sure? We are 50%, but our voice is only less than 10%. Yeah, and then we have a high occurrence of violence, still repetitively mentioned about violence, lack of information of mechanism, high illiteracy rate. Maybe in Malaysia we don't really have, but in other countries they have. So my time is up. Alright. So I can see that regional setup. After the CEDAW, then we have ASEAN Charter. After, although ASEAN is 1967, but we have ASEAN Charter in 2008. And then ICHA, I participated in all these conferences. I observed some of their conferences. So, CEDAW is not only a treaty, but it is a global governance mechanism. So, there is existence of regional global governance policy network of ASEAN and CEDAW. We also, I am suggesting that ASEAN have a common stand, not just separate papers to submit report, and we should have also consultative status for civil society organization, not only in United Nations but also in ASEAN. They are actually thinking of constructing that. Okay, I cannot, do I have any question? No, because I already exceed 1 minute. Okay, can I have our third speaker?